Hi, everybody. This is Greg with the Dice Must Flow, and today we're starting another episode of Sigmar and Son. I believe this is episode 8. I have with me Mark.
Hello.
And you may notice Mark's got a new webcam, so hopefully things are a little bit better.
You can see my beautiful face better now.
Yeah, you can see his room better and stuff. So it's been a couple weeks since we were able to do a show. We did a show, I said 2 weeks ago, and then we went to NashCon last week, and that was a great time. I got to meet Dave, who came on our show, and that was pretty exciting. Met Vince Ventrilo from Warhammer Weekly, and a couple other people. Did some talking about our show. Did some just talking with the Warhammer community in general, getting everybody's thoughts on what they're looking forward to with the new version of Age of Sigmar.
And had some sweet shirts.
And we had some sweet shirts, which we are not wearing right now, which we should have been.
I think they're in the laundry.
And I know that we have Jeremy, who was best order general. And Mark and I both played him, and we both enjoyed our games. And we're going to get him on the show to talk about the order faction. Not tonight, but we're going to get him on.
Probably after 2.0 comes out, so he can assess, what's different and what's new and stuff.
Right. We've got a lot of people lined up to come on, but we've kind of felt that with the 2.0 announcement, we wanted to make sure that this was really what people were able to we didn't want to outdate the episode, and so letting people come on talking about factions and stuff, thought that would be better to wait till after 2.0. I know we got Haywo from Haywo Twitch is going to come on and talk about some combos and some other things. And I don't know if we've actually mentioned before, Mark was playing competitive Magic for quite a while, still does a little bit. So that'll be interesting to see those guys go into the combos. And so, and then I did want to give a shout out to, was it Tyler?
Tyler, yes.
Yeah, Tyler did a great job getting together some of the terrain down at NashCon. And I know he said he watches the show all the time. So hello, Tyler. And I just enjoyed the tables a ton. They're really, really good. And I'm going to have to go get some of his sponsors. Do you remember who the sponsor was, Mark?
GameMat.eu.
GameMat.eu. Yeah, some of they had a pretty sweet desert type terrain and stones and stuff that I really liked.
Pre-painted,
yeah, resin pre-painted.
It's important.
So hey, there's been a ton of Age of Sigmar 2 news. We're going to try and go through some of that, and we're going to only sort of hit the highlights, things that popped out at me. There's so much we could just talk for hours about all the articles that maybe a lot of you have already read because it's been 2 weeks and stuff on our Warhammer community. We'll talk about the stuff that we saw that popped out at us and the stuff that and just kind of hit some highlights. So I guess first of all, this weekend up for pre-order, the big pre-order weekend if you're going to pre-order it, or it's going to cost you a lot of buckaroos if you order everything.
There's a lot of stuff coming out. All of the things.
So yeah, everything all at once. Boom. They call it.
It is not an Idenith thing. It is not the slow drawn out. This is like a giant meteor of releases.
Right. In the IT industry, we call this the Big Bang cutover, where everything happens all at once. So anyway, our the pre-order stuff, and that's going to come out this weekend, and then the game itself, June 30th. So this weekend, you're going to have the Age of Sigmar, and they're calling this Soul Wars, which I think we've really kind of mentioned before, or but basically, yes, this is the Nagash upset about everybody stealing his souls, and this is the Soul Wars.
Fitting.
And so the box game itself is going to be $160. If you don't want to get the box game, and we'll go into everything that's going to be in there in a little bit, they have the core book. They did mention that the rules are 18 pages, so we're up from 4 to 18 pages. That's
they said 18 pages, but I don't know if that includes because they said the FAQs are also in the rule book thing, so I don't know if they're counting the FAQs as well.
Yeah, they just said it's 18 pages, and they did say those 18-page rules are always still going to be free. So yeah, the free rules still for the basic game. Now, if you want all the faction type stuff, artifacts and
got to buy the battle tomes.
You're gonna have to buy the battle tomes or whatever. So the other big thing, Malign Sorcery, is coming out that day. I was kind of surprised this was coming out at the same day, but it's $85, and that's the same price as a starter kit, start collecting kit.
You get all of them, not just some. You get all 13, 12, 13.
I don't know. We'll take a look at it in a bit. General's Handbook 2018, the same day, so you get all the points. I kind of, I don't know. $35 for that. I totally understand the fact that it's separate. That way they can tweak the points and everything. But it does feel like, I don't know. Maybe you just do only need the General's Handbook if you're playing.
Well, for those people that love, narrative things, I think the core book is going to be really good for them too. And I think a lot of people that are going to buy the core book are probably just going to buy the box game anyway because of the value.
Right.
So just like a little bonus thing.
Whipping through some of the other stuff here, they're going to come out with a combat gauge. It's not going to be $35 this time. Scenery dice, which we've talked about before. They're going to basically have their scenery dice, command and status dice.
I wish they had names on them though.
Yeah,
the scenery dice instead of
it just has a little number and an icon, which
I kind of like how Bad Dice does it. Right? That's the people who do it.
Yeah, Bad Dice. It's actually said the word arcane or whatever.
Yeah,
I kind of like the cards we made. I need to put those up.
Yeah, I like those too
on Google and share them to everybody.
Because even if it just says the name, sometimes my brain is like, "What's the rule again?"
Right. So we had them on the rules. Objective markers. Those are pretty cool from what I've seen. Wound counters, little things you can put next to your model to count up your units if you don't want.
I think they're just wound dice, right?
Are they? Or are they? I don't know. I don't. So then they've got the Stormcast Eternals Castigators with Gryph-hound, Stormcast Eternals Sequitors, Nighthaunt Glaive Wraith Stalkers, and Nighthaunt Mirmorn Banshees.
And I think these are the people on like those scenic bases that we saw that were like, are these Shadespire people or what are they? But they're just AOS 2.0. They're just on like Shadespire-esque bases.
Right. And finally, the Nighthaunt Gloom and the Hexwraith Flame. And the Nighthaunt Gloom is the bluish color for the ghosts. And the Hexwraith Flame is kind of the greenish color for the ghosts.
Yep. So I guess their idea here is spray it white, wash it with this. You got a painted ghosty ghoul.
Yeah.
I painted spooky boy.
It looks pretty. I mean, like you said, spray it white and wash it this, and you're done with most of these models. And
give it some dry brushing.
Maybe even that. I know there's quote unquote 3-color minimum, right? But I think that you probably get by with just this.
You got to paint their weapons metallic or something, right? You can't have it all. Can't have it all spooky boy looking.
Right.
Base is a color.
Right. So, going to do a bit of a screen share here. This is everything that we talked about. So here you can see the objective markers. You can see some of the spells from Malign Sorcery, the main rule book, Soul Wars and the models that come with them, the marker. And so That's pretty. That's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff. They have a you can go look at like kind of an unboxing on one of the Stormcast episodes.
Right. And so here,
And interesting enough, everything in the Soul Wars box is pushed to fit.
yeah, that was quite interesting. So they're just kind of showing off now, right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
So here's yeah, so here's basically the Stormcast that's going to be in there. Oh, and they also have a chapter of one of the new chapter, as in
The first chapter of
a new
a
novel.
new novel coming out. Yeah,
Not a new not a new Stormcast chapter.
yeah.
So yeah, so here's the Stormcast models, and here's all of the um, Nighthaunt models. And these guys are pretty sweet. So, you know, and this one here is really nice. So you got the Knight of Shrouds on the Ethereal Steed. I just can't believe that's a push to fit model.
Yeah, that's crazy. That model and the Executioner are like.
Is that this guy?
Those models are nice.
Right. And so, yeah, here they basically talk about the core book and some of the other stuff. Some of the, you're going to get cards for each of your guys inside the set.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
New format. New format cards.
And they talk more about the book, and it's got Realms of Battle in it. But I wanted to scroll down, and this is the, 13 spells for the Malign Sorcery?
Looks like, 13.
That would be the number 13.
Okay. Well, it's weird to me that they put it there and not like in order.
Name of them. And every one of these spells has a War Scroll card. You can see all of these spells. And a little bit about how to paint them and stuff like that.
Yeah, a little Path of Glory thing. Yep. Father's Day weekend coming up. Gonna be a good Father's Day for you, Dad?
Sure.
We'll do some pre-ordering.
Yeah. Pre-ordering for Father's Day weekend. So, General's Handbook. Do you want to go through this, Mark?
Yeah, so the General's Handbook, if you guys have the General's Handbook 2017, you guys will see that there's the allegiance abilities for Darkling Covens, Dispossess, Free Peoples, Fire Slayers, Seraphon, Wonders, Brayherd, Slanesh, Slaves of the Darkness, Skaven Pestilence, and Skaven Scryer, Flesh Eater Courts, and Ironjaws. These will all have new allegiance abilities in the new General's Handbook, and there will be new summoning rules for every faction that use summoning. You're going to have all the points increases and decreases, and these sounds like from the faction focus, mostly you'll have point drops, but I assume some models will get a point cost increase.
Right. So they basically said that the 6 battle plans from General's Handbook 2016, was it? The regular General's Handbook are going in the core rule book.
Mm-hmm.
The 6 from General's Handbook 2017 are going to be in the new General's Handbook, as well as 6 more. There's going to be a total of
18, right?
Yeah, well, a total of 18 scenarios, yes.
Yeah.
Or 20 if you include 2 in Malign Sorcery, they're saying. So there could be 20 matched play scenarios.
Right.
And we have rules for how to create campaigns, they said, and a battle plan generator. So it's kind of if you wanted to have a bit of a story, but kind of a general a battle plan generator.
I thought that was in the Path to Glory.
Well, don't they have that in this?
Well, yeah, I guess they do. But I thought there was a whole like Path to Glory book.
No, in the General's Handbook, they always have Path to Glory for the new for the factions, I thought. Or they have Path to Glory into each tome that they do. They have a Path to Glory and then some in the tome. So anyway, yeah, basically, so here, like, they talk about how they basically talk about, this is an example of what they were doing. and using the rules to come up with a scenario. So they basically came up with these ideas and then then used it to come up with an actual scenario. So the other thing on that was that, and this came from the Stormcast podcast with I think it was Ben mentioned that they my mind has gone blank. Oh well, I'll get back to it.
Real quick, shout out to Halo. He had the funniest video for Stormcast, kind of a satirical poke at it because it's not really a very good podcast form, I suppose. You should go check it out on his channel. It's really funny.
Yeah, it was. Halo does a good job of mocking some of the intros too.
Yeah, he does.
All of our podcasts, and maybe we'll know he makes it when he makes fun. We will know that we made it when he makes fun of us.
That's true.
So, so I didn't see Stormcast on this list for General's Handbook, but I assume that they're still here. Yeah, assume we know that they're still going to be in there.
Yeah, I think what I said this to you earlier. I think these are basically all the armies that don't have battle tomes really, or their battle tomes are from like Seraphon is like the first battle tome that came out for Age of Sigmar, basically. So these are like older battle tomes and or armies that they still want to support that don't have battle tomes.
Right. Hey, I finally remembered what I was going to mention. You know that scenario that we played at NashCon that just had the weird deployment where you had to this?
Oh yeah, the last one.
Yeah, and you had it was like the jagged edge or whatever.
That was the last one.
Was that the last one?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, they basically made that a diagonal because everybody's like, I can't figure this out.
Oh, sure.
And so
kind of makes sense.
Yeah, so that's interesting, but yeah. And hey, here's the color of the new paints. We'll take a quick look at that here. So yeah, there's the paints. I do like and the minis. I like the blue better than the green. I don't. The green just seems a little too much. I think that could highlight certain areas for ghostly for like a green glow, but I don't like the whole mini but like that. This looks. I think you could just get by with almost the whole mini with just that. Like you said, other than just doing up some of these weapons.
I think that. Yeah, I like the blue better too. I think you paint the blue on like. You scroll up a little bit. So like the blue on like the spectral bits, and then like he has robes going over kind of his face. You paint that like an actual color, and then you paint the metallic bits, and boom, looking good.
Right. Hey, there's the non-$30.
I don't know. It's metal. It might cost that much.
It's solid metal, so who knows? So here's the objective markers. And they're pretty cool. And this does remind me a little bit of, I forget the terrain kit that just came out.
Zero Ruins.
You're right. Ruins had a little bit of the
treasure chest
and stuff. So now here's the dice Mark mentioned for the scenery table and the scenery dice. And one thing I was not sure was the scenery going to change in the new version?
It looks like it's the same.
It's staying the same. But yeah, I don't really necessarily like that this is a 6. And this icon doesn't really help me a whole lot.
Wait, no, Mystical's different, right?
That is different.
And Mystical's like re-roll failed wound rolls, right?
They've got the same names. They've got the same names, but I thought Mystical was helped you casting a spell. No, that's Arcane.
No, Arcane is. I'm looking at it.
No, Mystical is different. Mystical is the one that on a 1, you basically your guy went.
Yeah, but then you get to re-roll wound rolls, right?
Yeah. So they changed Mystical.
Yeah, Mystical sucked.
Mystical sucked if you got hit by it, yes.
I remember one time at Adepticon, I'm kind of jumping off into a tangent, but I felt bad because I was trying to be nice and like I was like, "Yo, do you want to make your mystical?" He like forgot to. I was like, "You want to go back and make your mystical roll?" And he just totally rolled a 1, didn't get to do anything. I was like, "I'm
right."
was trying to help.
So I'm paying a little more attention to this. I just looked at the names earlier when I did this, but yes, these are changing because Deadly has before you rolled if you went over the terrain and you rolled a 1, the model died. So it was like Archaon rolls over Deadly, you roll a 1, he's dead. Now they take a D3 mortal wounds. So that's different. Mystical obviously is different because they just sort of changed that.
I wonder if they'll change the Sylvaneth terrain to be that now too, because Sylvaneth had the whole Deadly thing. If you ran or charged over it, you got and you rolled a 1. It was just like slaying. So like my Storm Fiend, I had this happen in a game against Tyler Emerson. I just ran my Storm Fiend over and just, dead, 6 wounds, gone. See you later.
Damned terrain. We should have a talk about terrain at some point because a lot of people, I think, forget to use the terrain. But we'll get back to that because that's going into our battle before the battle type talk.
We have a lot more stuff to cover.
Right. So here's dice. I guess these are wound counters because they look like they're 12-siders or something.
Yeah, I told you. They're just wound dice, yeah. Basically spin downs. If you ever have gone to like a Magic pre-release, they give you spin downs.
Yeah. And I don't know what these are. Command points?
Command things. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't get that. And so here's the extra kits. I do love these guys, though.
That's what I was saying. These are like the scenic basing guys.
Yeah, you saw these guys here. They looked like they had these scenic bases.
I think the other Nighthaunt ones look sweet.
Oh, these guys?
Maybe it's their paint job that I just think is sweet.
Oh, yeah, this one here, you got the kind of the armor and then the ghosts.
I like that tree. I like that base. They should just sell these bases. I'd buy them.
I'm sure they will. This is a little scary, though, right here. Is like your support.
Well, he connects down on this big robe to the base too.
Yeah. So, all right. So that's like everything that's launching. My gosh, that's a whole lot of stuff.
Yes. R.I.P. wallets.
Yeah. So, hey, what other news we got? I'll
base
cover
to base.
Base to base, right? So they're basically this came out while we were at NashCon, and yeah, so they're going to base to base is now official, and they basically
caught up with the rest of the world.
Well, you know, it's all a marketing thing. I mean, really,
I know.
They would have probably, and they still hedged their bet on it. They basically said it's base to base, but we're not going to tell you what bases you have to use, even though, by the way, you're going to have to use rounds if you're playing tournaments. They basically said it's base to base. And you measure that way, and they're going to come out with a chart of recommended base sizes for every miniature they've made. And while they're not going to require it, tournament organizers, I'm going to say tournament organizers are going to require it. And so that's just the way it's going to be, I guess. I've got you know, we missed the what were we working on, but I did the Chaos Marauders, you know, I got a unit of 40 and I need to put them on a base, and I'm actually waiting. I've been waiting to base them.
I think they'll be on 25. Well,
I'm guessing they're going to be on 25s, but they used to be on
25.
20s or 25s. Anyway, I'm going to guess they're on 25s. But my point is, I want to make sure that I don't do bases for 40 Marauders and have them be the wrong size. I guess realistically, I could probably. Did they repackage those? Do they come with round bases?
No, I don't think they did.
So if they did, I could probably figure that out.
I think you get Chaos Warriors in the Slaves to Darkness thing.
Right. So pile-in is changing. That's the other one of the other interesting, and I probably found this interesting rule. So now pile-in, you used to have to once you sort of, well, in base to base world, but once you kind of hit a model, you could no longer move. What are you laughing at, my little fingers? I'm
just have inappropriate thoughts in my head. I'm sorry.
All right. So once a model a base of a model touched another model, it could no longer move closer. So it was pretty much stuck. But now you're able to move around that base of the model. So even though as long as you stay in base-to-base contact, you can move around the model during the pile-in phase, which lets other models pile in.
Super important for horde armies.
Right. So before, like, your horde army would hit, and then it would kind of stick because these guys would have to move closer, but they couldn't because this guy was stuck. And so, that's important. Makes spears not be as near as important as
I was just about to say that, like spear, like even though spears were like generally like so. I'll just use clan rats for an example because that's I think it's 5 plus the hit, 4 plus the wound with the spears, and then if they've got like a hand weapon, it's 4 and 4. The difference is a 1 inch versus 2 inch. So with the clan rats, with the spears, since they're on 25 millimeters, you can get all 3 rank. You can get 3 ranks.
Right.
But they didn't. And with the hand weapons, you only got 2 ranks, but they were better to hit. So now I wonder, are hand weapons going to be the better thing to go? Because you might be able to get as many. With the new rules, you're going to have more things hitting. Like the ranks won't matter as much, right?
Yeah, but I still think it'll matter. You're always confined to a certain amount of area on the board.
Especially with especially if you're running like groups of 40.
Right. I mean, if you're 8 of 10, yeah, then it's going to matter. The other thing on the pile-in phase is you cannot choose to not attack with a unit anymore. So the combat phase only ends when every single eligible unit has piled in and participated.
Oh, I didn't read that. That's upsetting because I had this whole like not idea for. I was basically like, oh, undead is not that great. You can just choose not like there are summonings like it's pretty good, but it's not that great. You can just choose not to kill the unit. But they can force you to kill the unit basically.
Right. You'd be like, oh, I don't want this unit to pile in and die.
Like, yeah, they're gonna get like so many wounds back, but getting that many wounds back is probably better. Like instead of killing off a group of 40 and then they get to summon that unit again, them getting 10 models back is better.
Right.
So that's interesting. That's an interesting change.
So I guess next we just thought we'd look at some of the war scrolls that are going to be in the box set. And I don't know what they're called. The
evocators.
Evocators.
I think it's evocators.
Okay. These guys are going to be 3 wounds apiece, 4 up save, 8 bravery, 5 move, and basically they have the ability to empower. That's their big thing. Casting value of 6. So these are going to be your mage guys.
Groups of 3.
They're going to be running groups of 3. You can empower a unit, and that is pick a friendly redeemer or sacrosanct unit within 8 inches of the caster. And until your next hero phase, you can reroll failed wound rolls for that.
Yeah. I think it's pretty good. I originally thought they were going to be able to have like Mystic Shield and Arcane Bolt, but I'm glad they don't. I'm glad they just have their one little thing. Makes them not as good. Their unit isn't as broken as you originally thought or people online thought.
I wanted to talk about that here. It says in the shooting phase, reroll save rolls of 1 for the unit. In addition, after resolving this unit's attack in the combat phase, pick 1 enemy unit within 3 inches of this unit and roll 2 dice for each model in this unit. And so you got to be careful with the this and that wording here. Originally, I read it that for every model in the enemy unit, they would be rolling 2 dice, and on a 4 up, it's getting a mortal wound. I'm like, holy cow, that's insane.
Yeah. I was sitting in class, and I think you texted this to me or messaged me on Facebook or something, and you're like, this seems broken. I was like, when I read it as how the rule is supposed to be. And I was like, yeah, it seems good. I don't I don't see the sky falling. And then I looked on Facebook and saw everyone else talking about it too. I was like, and then we talked about it when you got home, and you told me like what you thought the rule was. I was like, oh yeah, that would be broken.
Yeah, so definitely this and that, and yeah, so that was the internet went crazy for a couple hours till people figured out how to read. Why should
I don't think it's how it. It's kind of hard.
you
It's
skim
poor.
it
It's
and
poor
you jump?
wording.
Right, you skim it and you jump.
Yeah, exactly.
So here's the Celestar Ballista. This thing, I generally don't like the war machines in the game, but this guy does look pretty cool. And he's got like this 18 and 36-inch range, 4 attacks, and at the 18-inch range at 5+, 3+, with a -2 rend and 1 damage. And then at 36 inches, it can reach out and touch somebody at 3+, 3+. I kind of don't really care for that attack. I mean, 3+, 3+ is really not a very good chance to hit for just one shot. And it's only gonna do 1 damage. But it's got this chain lightning. Each time you roll a hit for an attack made with this unit storables, that attack inflicts D6 hits on the target instead of 1. So
why didn't they just put damage D6 then?
Because I don't know. Because it doesn't do a D6 damage. It does a D6 hits. And then
Oh, okay.
So this guy could do essentially 24 hits on max, right? If you did 4 times 6.
If you're really good at rolling dice, yeah.
Really, yeah. If you rolled 4 or 5 ups and then you rolled a D6 and you rolled 6 on all of them.
Although I bet you that there's ways to buff the hit. So 5+ probably becomes something else, and
I'm sure there's a 4+. Yeah. And so you can either choose single shot or rapid shot. But yeah, so if you're going to hit with this thing on a 3+, when you hit on the 3+, and if you somehow buff it down to 2+, you're going to get a D6 of these, and so then that's a lot better.
Yep. Lord or Donator or makes it shoot twice, right? Is the double shoot?
Is that what it does? Yeah. And this guy gets bonuses, say if it's in cover, right?
Yep.
So
you can empower it. Combos, huh?
Combo, empower.
I mean, not really combo. You can reroll wound rolls. I don't know.
Reroll wound rolls.
It's not combo. It's just synergistic.
Right. So, kind of going through, and this is what the War Scroll cards look like. I guess everybody's kind of familiar with these. And I said you're going to be getting all of these on your thing. So, Guardian of Souls, add 1 to the rune rolls for melee weapons wielded by friendly Nighthaunt models within 9 inches of the model.
Yeah. That's a great ability. We'll get to that.
That's a pretty big bubble too, right?
Yeah, and it's not holy. None of this Idenith crap.
Right. And so he also he's a wizard, and he knows the Spectral Lure spell, and this Guardian can fly, and of course he's ethereal. The Spectral Lure, pick a friendly summonable Nighthaunt unit. Here's your holy within 18 inches. You can heal a D6 wounds that have been allocated to the unit, or return a number of slain models to it, if there was
that equal D6. Yeah.
D6. So this guy seems really good. And I mean, look at this: 3+, 3 attacks, 3+ to hit, 3+ to wound with a rend. And I know one of the things the death didn't seem to have a lot of rend. So this was, or at least on Death/Tomb Kings, I should say.
With this guy, can you take 2 of them, and then can the unit be buffed by Nightmare Lantern twice, or is that go against the rule of 1?
I don't know. I think that it's a rule of 1. You only could be affected by an ability once, but I think that's. I heard some rumor that you can command abilities can double up. You can have the same command ability.
I'm looking it up.
So I'll just go into the next thing while you look that up, so we don't have everybody sitting. The Lord Executioner. This is the guy with the Hangman's Noose, right? Um, Again, he's ethereal. He's got a beheading strike of a wound roll for his great axe is 6+. Add 2 to the damage characteristic for that attack. So no automatic kill or anything, but it is adding 2 for the damage. And there's a lot of things that buffs um, wound rolls, right? By add 1 to the wound roll. So you're talking. It's not. This is a key here. It's not just a 6+. Or it's
Guardian of Souls does it.
He add 1s to wound rolls. So yeah, Guardian of Souls does it. So if this Lord Executioner is within range of that Guardian of Souls, on a 5 or 6, it's going to add 2 to the damage characteristic of the weapon for the attack. He's got at the start of the hero phase, of the combat phase, pick an enemy hero and subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by that hero. So that's going to be.
So I get he's supposed. I think it'd be more fitting if he dealt more damage to heroes, like he's a hero slayer thing. But this is also good.
Yeah, and he's got a 5+.
Disgustingly
resilient, and we don't know then, or whatever you want to call it, on a 5+ ward save. We don't know what Death has, or what the Nighthaunt's special abilities are going to be. But I mean, just the generic Death has one that, like, if you're within 6 inches of a hero, which this guy is, because he's a hero, he gets a 6+. So he could, even if you had that, you could have a a 4+, a 5+, a 6+.
All the saves.
All the saves.
So I looked up the rule of 1 thing. I think that this works under the rule of 1.
Yeah, I don't know what we obviously don't know what the new rules of 1 will be.
Yeah.
And I suspect that under command abilities, they're going to talk about that because it's going to be easy to take.
Right, yeah.
Try and give the same command or same abilities.
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of going through some of the faction focus stuff, rules and things we've seen in the faction focus. And man, people, there have been a ton. So go to Warhammer Community and you can read all of this stuff.
These are just what we think are
cool. Just little things that popped out to us. And I'm kind of going in reverse because that's the way I looked at them for notes. But the big thing in the Iden F. Deepkin one is that if the general is slain mid-game, you can nominate a new one and even generate a new command trait for them. They didn't talk anything more than that. When you nominate one, is it the next hero phase? When do you generate the command trait? Is it immediately as soon as your general dies? So they haven't talked about that. But I think so many, especially with the IDNF, have so many of their command abilities say, if this unit is the general.
All of them.
Pretty much all of them, right?
All of them do.
So what you need to do is you start with the Tidecaster and flip the order and then kill it. And then you make your other guy the general.
Your Volturnus?
Yeah.
No, you can't do that because then your eels aren't battle line.
Doesn't matter. Once they're battle line at the start of the battle, they're battle line, right?
Your eels aren't battle line, so you can't bring eels as battle line unless you have an Achillean as your general.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And everybody loves the eels, so
they're good. I love the shark look. I don't know if they're actually any good.
I don't know. So I hope to see some Balin Vortex conversions with them though.
Oh yeah, there was a Balin Vortex rule that I forgot. What do you remember what that was? They changed the Balin Vortex.
Oh, I was just saying I hope to see some conversions, like Sharknado conversions with it. But I do know the rule if you want to talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about that because I was going into some endless spells.
Okay, I don't have it in front of me, so don't quote me on it, but I believe the rule is you can't put a model on it that is greater than 8 wounds, so no Eidolon or Marathi. Well, I mean, I guess you kind of can put Marathi on it if you keep her in her baby form. And then it seems to me, because I saw the War Scroll earlier today, that you can charge into it now. There's no immune to melee crap
Yeah,
that
well,
it had
why don't
before.
you look it up? We'll go ahead into some of this other stuff. So the other thing was the Aelves, Aelves, so like a southern drawl, an Aelve. Um, in there they talk about the endless spell. Mark's favorite looking endless spell. I joke about it because he thinks these are cruddy looking. The tendrils of shadow and light. So that's these guys. And this is kind of a common theme in a lot of these spells. Each unit that has any models passed across by the endless spells are going to suffer wounds. But this is one that kind of debuffs your opponent. In addition, subtract 1 to a minimum of 1 from attacks characteristics of melee weapons used by that unit that has any models passed over it. And so then they suffer D3 wounds. And there's a shadow one and a light one. So the shadow one does the takes attacks, and the light one subtracts 1 from the hit rolls. So that's pretty cool.
They're cool. I'm not too into endless spells, to be honest.
Right. So in
I put it at the bottom, by the way.
Okay. Shadow Warriors are going to now cost fewer points. That was the other thing, one of the other things. And they talked about a couple relics. And a lot of these, you had relics that a lot of these had relics that they showed. So basically, they talk about an ethereal amulet, which ignores modifiers positive or negative when making save rolls for the model.
It's an ethereal amulet. Surprise, surprise. It gives someone the ethereal rule.
Right. So I like that. And the miasmatic blade, pick one of the bearer's melee weapons, subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks that target the bearer. So both of these are pretty cool.
That one's good.
I tell you what,
that one's really good.
There's so many artifacts that are coming out, and you're like going to be limited to 1 or maybe 2. I hope they have some more rules.
80. There's like 80 something, right?
Right, but I'm hoping they have some more rules for allowing you to take artifacts other than if you have a battalion.
Oh, maybe they'll be like, you can take an artifact, a 50-point thing. I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Choose a command point or artifact.
Right.
I don't know.
It'd be nice. So, hey, the other thing that was talked about in here is basically, nobody took the Fire Phoenix because it would, when it died, it had a chance to come back. But in match play, you had to pay reinforcement points. So now with quote unquote free reinforcement, summoning.
No one took the Fire Phoenix because the Frost Phoenix is broke.
Right, but also,
I know.
The reasons that the Frost Phoenix is really good, but one of the reasons that the Fire Phoenix wasn't considered good, is one of its special abilities didn't even work.
Right.
At least in tournaments, and that's kind of where we're focusing on stuff, or matched play or points.
Right.
Most people play points. I do think that that's kind of a mistake that they're making, that they are kind of charging you for the points again, even though you're buying the starter set. I kind of don't like that. I wish they would come out. Maybe they would have, if they would have come out with the points on the units that are in there. So Gutbusters. Speaking of points, points dropped. The Grot Scrap Launcher, the Iron Blaster, and Man-Eaters cost fewer points. And they basically showed an artifact called the Trickster's Helm, which is kind of a throwback name to something in the old fantasy game. And this, you reroll successful casting rolls for enemy wizards while they're within 8 inches of the bearer. So again,
while that's a really cool artifact, I like it a lot. The design, I don't think it's very good in the grand scheme of things.
The grand scheme of
Because
artifacts.
generally, you're going to want this to happen on turn 1, probably. It's not going to. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to, it's not, generally, you probably want your artifacts to make an impact throughout the entire game or just be stupidly broken for one single turn. Where this kind of doesn't do either. But it's sweet. It's got a cool design to it. I like it.
It's the theme of the ogres. They used to have an item that would automatically dispel.
Right.
Butcher Heart or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm screen sharing here. This is from the Bone Splitters, the Scything Blade. And you can see the predatory spell there. And basically, again, after this model is moved, each unit that has any models that passed across, and each other unit within 1 inch of it suffers a D6 mortal wounds.
Yeah.
And so the one thing I'm noticing, a lot of these do mortal wounds, and a lot of armies that have difficulty creating mortal wounds, these might be options for. I could see them taking the risk with these guys.
They kind of, all the mortal wounds, or not mortals, a lot of the predatory spells we've seen, endless spells, predatory spells, however, whatever they are, have a very similar, you cast it, you get to move it immediately when you cast it, it moves over something, it does this many mortal wounds. It kind of just has...
They're sort of the predatory ones, yeah.
Yeah, like I feel like there's probably going to be like a best one, unless like they're like a pretty like, we don't know how many points these cost because these do cost points in match play.
Right. And I don't know if they, I assume every army can use them, but maybe not. Maybe you'll have
I assume every army can.
Maybe you have to be in the realm of destruction or realm of beasts to do the certain beast.
No, because it says if this is in the realm of whatever, it gets an additional benefit. Like,
so I guess the final thing I was going to throw out was dispossessed. It says, like their allies, the Fire Slayers and the Kradron Overlords KO, the dispossessed receive welcome points reductions across a wide range of units, from Longbeards to Iron Breakers and even Iron Drakes. So it does seem like a lot of things points are going down.
And Iron Breakers are battle line now, I think.
Okay.
One of the dispossessed things went to battle line.
Cool.
So that's another good thing for you dwarf loving people out there.
Right. Now, I did, the one other piece of news I heard about points was that they said that they took into consideration a unit's summoning capability. And so I think basically some of these guys, these units that don't have any summoning capabilities, that's a lot of their points. In general, overpointed units went down, but I think the things that don't have any summoning, their points might go down. And was it, they basically said, like, was it, who's the tree Sylvaneth gal?
L'Ariel.
L'Ariel can basically pop a 200-point unit out
on
turn one, just automatic. And so they basically said that they were taking her, that type of stuff into consideration. It's like, if you can automatically summon a 200-point unit, you expect their points to go up.
So I think models that, so armies that get free summoning, I think you'll see a jump in either the things that summon them or the things that can be summoned. Most likely the things that can summon it, because generally the things that can be summoned are battle line. You don't want to increase points of battle line units because that would screw over people.
Yeah, the people that can be the summoners.
Yeah, so I think summoners will get a point increase depending on how broken it is.
Right.
And things that don't summon will go down in points. But also, things like Iron Jaws that can't summon but have really, really good command abilities, you might not see a decrease in. Well, you're going to see a decrease in the Ard boys, but like, not all of them are dropping because they're still a pretty good army. Like they don't need the summoning just because they go in there and beat that face with they're going to have a command ability combo with all the WOG.
Right. So
So
back to Balewind Vortex. Do you want to talk about that, Mark? I know you added it, but
I mean, you want to share?
I can share, but it's tough to read from what I saw.
So what you're saying is I am younger with better eyes.
Pretty much, yes.
Oh, I shouldn't have done that.
That's fine.
Okay, so yeah, I was right. So you can't so I'll just read it. So as long as so you can summon the Balewind Vortex. It has a casting value of 6. Wizards with a wound characteristic of 9 or more that are part of a unit of 2 or more models that are already on a Balewind Vortex cannot attempt to cast this spell. So that sounds like the Evokers can.
Oh.
Doesn't matter. If successfully cast, set up a Balewind Vortex model within 1 inch of the caster and more than 3 inches from enemy models, and then place the caster on the upper platform. As long as the Balewind Vortex remains on the battlefield, the caster and the Balewind Vortex are treated as being a single model from the caster's army that uses the caster's war scroll, as well as the endless spell rules. It is treated as an enemy model by the opposing player's army. A wizard on a Balewind Vortex can attempt to cast an additional spell in each of their hero phases, so you get however many on the war scroll plus 1. In which their summon Balewind Vortex was cast. Okay, so you get to cast more on the turn it was summoned, excuse me. And you can add 6 inches to the range of any spells the wizard cast. A wizard on a Balewind Vortex cannot move. That's interesting. Add 1 to the save rolls for a wizard on a Balewind Vortex. If a wizard on a Balewind Vortex attempts to dispel the attempt automatically. Oh, it's automatically successful.
No. If you want to dispel your own Balewind Vortex, it's automatic.
If a wizard on a attempts to dispel it, it is hard to read. This uses up an additional spell that they would have received in the hero phase.
So it does say if a Balewind Vortex is dispelled, so it can be dispelled.
It's dispelled on a 6+. I know that for a fact.
Okay.
And it looks like, unless there's another page, they got rid of the really, really dumb rule that you basically can't interact with anyone on a Balewind Vortex. Because the old rule is like you can't get within 3 inches of them. There's immune to melee.
Yeah.
How do I kill these? How do I kill this?
Something. So we're coming up on an hour of news. So that's pretty much what we have for the news. So we'll get to our main topic, which maybe we should topic. Our main topic was the news. We knew it was going to be long. So one of the discussions Mark and I had on the way home from NashCon was some different topics, and one of these is something where I'm calling the battle before the battle, and that's really kind of what is your plan for the battle. So we talk about things that you might think about. You may not want to listen to my advice since I was horrible down at NashCon.
I went 3-2. It's not like that's great either.
Well, we were 3-0 and playing at the top table day 2. So, as opposed to me, which was not. So my advice is, and Mark had to tell me this a couple times. So shake off your previous game if you're at a tournament. Go into a game clean. Don't go into a game frustrated about something from a previous game. That's just going to add up and make things worse. So you want to have a good, enjoyable game. Shake off whatever the previous game bad things were. Build on things you might have learned from the previous game, especially if you get another matchup of the same. But don't assume that your opponent's going to play it exactly the same anyway. Because, for example, I played against 2 Nurgle forces, both with thrice befoulment, which is the Rodigus and two more great unclean ones. And the players
One you won.
One I won, and
one you got destroyed from what you told me.
Well, it's all a matter of snakes holding up or not. They didn't hold up.
Right.
And so anyway, don't let that ruin your game, and go on that.
And importantly, don't let it ruin the fun that you're supposed to be having.
Right. Don't ruin your opponent's game because you're salty about your previous game.
Also that. So a lot of these I kind of bring from like I used to go to a lot of Grand Prix and play a lot of Magic, and like I think the shake off a previous game is like really, it's less important in Age of Sigmar because you're not playing as many games. Like when I go to a Grand Prix, I'm playing 9 games on the first day, hour long each generally, and if you let all the mistakes, even if I won a game, I sometimes have a tendency to dwell on a mistake I made, and that can get in your head and ruin your next game. You want to learn and then forget. Don't forget what you learned, but just forget about the mistake.
Right.
If that makes sense. I know that's kind of like a weird way to put it, but
and I do think that we were talking a little earlier about don't assume that your opponent's going to play it the same way is important. I've had that bite me before, just like in this game, this NashCon this weekend, and even in other games like Mage Wars. You know, we went to Gen Con and I played in the Mage Wars tournament and was in the final 4 of that, and played one guy, and he had a certain spell his wizard was casting, and I sort of next guy put a spell on me, and I sort of assumed it was the same thing, and totally different. So you can almost overpsych yourself out.
Yeah.
So just think of what is the logical way people are going to play. Don't psych yourself out. Anyway, but next, Mark, why don't you?
All right, we got so assess the objectives. If you go to a tournament, usually there's a tournament pack. This is kind of what I did at NashCon. Before the game, before I even knew who my opponent was and knew what I was playing against, I looked at the objective and I said, boy, this is a crappy objective for me. What do how should I go into this game, and how do I need to set up my models in a way that is beneficial to me? Even before seeing my opponent's list, I was thinking about what I should be doing.
Right.
So what do I need to do to win, and how is my army going to get this objective? So for me at Adepticon and NashCon, I was playing a really low model count army. I think 18 models. And in these objectives, a lot of these objectives are not nice to me with the low model count army. And I had to think like, well, shoot, I might just have to table my opponent. Like
right.
I went into a couple games like thinking like, I can't ever win this objective ever. I'm just going to have to try and do this. So you get yourself into a mindset of, how am I going to win this game even though it might not be good for me? Or I have a really good list for this objective. How am I going to exploit that?
Right. And also, I guess most tournament, or at least the two that I've dealt with, right? They have a secondary objective. Adepticon had a secondary objective, which was like a list of 8 things, and you picked one of them. NashCon had the schemes, which were sort of a secondary objective. You got basically 8 different cards out of a possible 30. Everybody at Adepticon had the same list of 8. And you had to pick which one scheme that you were going to try and achieve. And really, point-wise, I think a major win was 15, and completing your scheme was 9 for a possible 24 points for a game. And so they're pretty much completing your scheme is 50% of getting a major victory.
Closer to a third.
9 and 15.
I was just saying 9 out of 24, right?
Sure. But anyway, yeah. So how is your army best going to achieve these objectives? Not only the objective on the map, but your scheme or your secondary objective. What is your army match for that? And it kind of that leads into the next thing, which is what do your opponent's models do? So, maybe if you're playing well, just for like example, at Adepticon, I had have your general do more wounds than the opposing general was the secondary objective. Well, my general was kind of a choppy general, and his general was a Slan. So yeah, that was pretty much, I'm like, oh well, that's the obvious choice to take there. So there's things that you're going to have to think about as far as your objectives and stuff once you see your opponent's list. But also, that is what does your opponent's models do leads to kind of number 4. Mark, why don't you?
Yeah. So what do your opponent's models do? Just real quick, I usually just have my opponents like give me a rundown of every single model that I don't know, and I think that's a good way to get it. And a big thing I always ask, I say, do you have any movement shenanigans? Because I think that is a huge thing to know for these objectives. And the one game I didn't ask that, I got completely face rolled by movement shenanigans. So, what do your opponent's models do? What do your battalions do and stuff like that? Like, well, there was one game I played against that was like he had a battalion that gave all his guys like at the start of the game they get to move 2d6 inches.
Right. So like the Stormcast has the teleport guy.
Yeah.
Start off map, or I hate to keep saying Tomb Kings, but I know them, so like they pop up from under the desert, or your guys pop up, or do you have great unclean ones with bells give additional movement, and that
certain spells do.
So yeah, and it's like when you're basically like you're saying you're deploying and you're going, okay, I'm going to deploy 24 inches away from him, thinking that there's no way he's going to get to me, and all of a sudden he's on you on turn 1. That's important.
That's exactly what happened. So next we're doing identifying strengths and weaknesses of your models versus your opponent's models. So I kind of look at it like what models do I need to have? What models do I want to fight his models? So
right.
If he has say he has a hero with a super high save and whatnot, I want my guys with the big Ren going into him, or I want to be having my wizards with I want things with mortal wounds going at him. You want to think, what do I need a tar pit? What are his key units that I can tie up and make them less useful? If you can take let's say you have a unit of 20 skeletons and he has a unit of, I don't know, some like
great unclean
or something, and you can tie up that thing so it is not effective in helping the other parts of his army, that's a win. You might be getting slaughtered in the fight, but you're tying him up. And Age of Sigmar is such a short game. I mean, the games are really only 3 to 5 turns. If you can tie up a unit for a turn, you're cutting out 20 to 25% of its time on the battlefield, really. And that's a huge amount.
Right.
And that kind of goes against what models do you want to keep away from their tar pit?
Yeah, and so and also with that, for example, like the plague bearers, the demons that we're playing, the guys had like units of 30 of them, and with a unit of 20 or more, you get they get +2, or you get your -2 attacking them with shooting. And then, so it's like, well, I want to make sure I don't set up my shooting guys to be attacking those, because it's just gonna not be very effective.
Right. And I actually think in the new edition, this identifying strengths and weaknesses will be more important with the shooting changes coming and the command abilities changes coming and all these crazy wombo combo things happening.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, it's going to be like,
and you're also going to want to identify what so if they are a combo eccentric army, you want to identify
their killer combo that they're going to
identify what models are making this happen and kill them.
Yeah. Identify what's going to kill you and kill them.
Yeah. Kill it before it kills you.
So, this kind of gets into, deployment, but also, I don't have this on our sheet, but I was reminded of it when we were talking about the scenery dice. And scenery is a huge, huge thing to look out and figure out the battlefield and the scenery. Even so, is there a particular piece of scenery you want to deploy by? Is there a particular piece of scenery that you want to avoid? Now, I think that the mystical people always used to avoid. Now they're maybe not going to avoid it so much.
I think people liked mystical though too, because it gave you re-roll to wound rolls. I don't know. It was like really good, and then you just get randomly just destroyed.
Right. And
by it.
See, I think people tended to avoid it because there was a chance to get destroyed by it, so they avoided it.
Yeah, I really like the change they did for it.
So, but for example, and so you're going to be potentially, if you win the deployment roll or however that's going to work, we still don't know. Right. You're going to maybe choose the side of the table, but yeah, be looking at if there's something you're going to want deployment side. I really liked, was it Damned? Is it Damned where you can sacrifice a D3, take a D3 mortal wounds to a unit, and then you re-roll your hit rolls, right? So
add 1. Add 1 to hit rolls.
Add 1 to your. Oh, it's even better. Yeah, you're right. It's add 1 to your hit rolls. And so just let me go into the only thing that seemed really cool this weekend for NashCon, my Tomb King archers with the buff from the Tomb King and the whatever, and the righteous smiting, which says on a 6+, you get to get another attack. So 30 archers. I had them near a damned. I did the damned.
Off a couple.
Lost a couple, but got an additional +1. So basically on a 4, 5, or 6, I was getting an additional attack. I ended up with 90-something attacks against a great unclean one, and did 30-something wounds to it, and then it took 8 because it's got such ridiculous saves, and then the next turn it was all healed because that's Nurgle. But I felt really good rolling all those dice. But
as you should.
I'm still not sure that's a good thing though, because my games went time every time, and we never got done really, because I was rolling so many dice, part of it, and moving so many models. Your low model count army is pretty good, and it lets you get a break between games.
So going back to the scenery thing, don't be like me and say, I'm lazy and I don't want to move, so I'm taking this side.
Oh, yeah. There was a lot of that. But the tables really were pretty balanced as far as the scenery.
Yeah, but until you roll triple mystical on my side and triple arcane on your side, then it's not so balanced.
Right, yeah. And it's like, oh, well, if he's got wizards and even if you don't, you probably want to deny those arcanes for him. So yeah, that was. I mean, and it's a big difference on things that have a spell casting value of 6 going down to a 5, or a 7 down to a 6, or whatever.
That's a big difference,
right? So yeah, finally, and we don't know how this is going to shake out with the new edition, but
seems to be a lot of that.
Right. But how many drops is your army versus your opponent? We'll kind of assume. I kind of assume that it's not going to be whoever gets done first wins. I think there'll be a modifier to the die roll, or as Tom from Warhammer Weekly said, they sort of set a precedent that maybe people will win ties since they have the for the turn order. That if you win a tie, the person wins ties.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, I think whoever finishes deployment first is going to win ties or get +1 to the die roll. It's the same odds.
Well,
but it's not going to be an automatic. To basically choose who's taking the first turn.
Right.
And I think that'll be big. But basically, even then, knowing how many drops your opponent is builds into how you are thinking about your deployment and what you're going to be doing. If you know your opponent's going to be putting everything down ahead of you, and he's probably finishing first, you're going to be deciding what is he going to be doing? You know, is he going to be making me move first, or is he going to be seizing the initiative? I kind of always assumed that I was going to be moving first. You deploying under the ground. So
I was about to say, kind of going back to like deploying, like how many of their things are being deployed on the board?
Oh yeah, that's
like that's a huge thing too. Like when setting up, like a lot of people don't really know how to set up against Scryer very well because it's like 3 inches and not 9 inches. And you can there's like if you have a lot of miles, it's like kind of easy to box me out. But I think people just don't think about it as much.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
So,
basically,
yeah, what deploys on the board? And
yeah.
That also important for when you get into your deployment. Are you going to have to bubble wrap units?
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know if, again, we don't know how bubble wrapping and stuff's going to work. I heard a rumor that once you're out of command,
cohesion,
you have to move toward cohesion. And if you end up not in cohesion, you're going to lose models. Haven't heard any of that to be true or not. But if it is true, I think it's going to totally change bubble wrapping a little bit.
I'll change it a little bit. I don't think that much.
Huge things strung across the
right.
So anyway, that's pretty much the show. I did want to mention that I have a video coming up. I did a video on my using gum paste to make bases. This is something I used a green stuff roller for, and went ahead and created a video on how to do that. I'll be putting that out this weekend. Mark, you've been working on what?
Eels
and more eels. I've been working on this big fatty. He's got more than 3 colors down, but got a lot of work to do still. That's about it. I've been trying to make sure I don't jump into anything with 2 on the horizon.
Yeah, I'm pretty safe.
Well, your army was designed with 2 in mind.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little worried about that army though, but we'll see. I think it's going to be a very difficult army to play.
Yeah, it's not going to be like Scryer.
That's good though. Maybe you'll have to deal with some of our pain.
I'll have more meaningful games. I had an opponent tell me, there's Jeremy, say, this doesn't feel like Warhammer.
Well, it doesn't.
I don't really roll dice to hit. I don't roll dice to hit or wound. I just roll wounds.
Right. So we can, go into that, maybe have a whole.
If it's still like the way it is, we can do a Skaven in 2.0.
Right. But basically the Storm Fiends, Mark's got a unit of Storm Fiends. He's got double battalions. They've got all warp fire generators on them. So they basically deploy under the ground. They pop up. And because of the battalion, the warp fire generators have a larger distance, right? 18 instead of 9 or something.
That's just 8 inches.
Oh, okay.
Always 8 inches.
But anyway, They don't roll to hit. They just straight up roll a D3 wounds per warfire projector. So
yeah,
you got
two D3 mortal wounds per model. It's so per unit it puts out on average 12 mortal wounds per unit.
And you've got 3 units of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just pop up, take 36 mortal wounds.
Yeah.
This was the first time Jeremy had the fulminators. The first time I really had to hit those. Wow, I have nothing with that can knock that Ren down. So
yeah,
I had nothing. So going with Nurgle now, since the tournament was my last ride of the Tomb Kings. I didn't see them on this list over here that we had earlier. I assume that they're not going to get points, not going to get any, that they'll be relegated to history. So, on that positive note, I guess we'll call it an evening. It's been an hour or more.
Hour 15.
Hour 15. So, I guess this weekend being Father's Day, I'm not sure we're going to have a show. If we do, I'll try and get it announced early. But it's probably going to be the Sunday after, which will be one Sunday before the actual launch, and we'll probably have a lot more news to cover then. As I expect that how do I say, real casts will be getting preview copies, and we'll start knowing a lot more about things as we go. So that's it for now. Mark, you have any last words?
Nope. It was good talking.
Buy GW stock. Did you see the thing about
it's doing well?
Doing well. It's at 39. The world's slowest stock ticker. There was an article though about how they
I think they're sharing revenue or something like that.
Yeah, they're giving bonuses to all their employees. So I
saw that.
So anyway, for the 5th time, I'll say that's it for now, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks, everybody.
See you guys.